What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada. The area. Yeah.
Have you
In the States?
been there for a while, or?
Yeah, I've been there since I was born, but I did live in Hong Kong for a few years just to, connect with my culture and everything.
Hong Kong, right. Oh, yes. Okay. So that's where some of your family still is?
Yeah, but it's kind of like estranged. I don't really talk to them anymore. So, yeah.
Do you have any brothers or sisters, or are you just an only child, or?
I have a younger sister. She's like 5 years younger than me. So I'm the eldest.
Right, okay. How have they taken with the work that you're doing as well? How have they taken that?
It's interesting because when people ask me what I do, I just tell them I do energy healing because to go into it, it will be a lot for some people.
Right. Until they find you online, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
that are meant to know about my work will find me online. So.
Right, absolutely. What were you doing before this type of work then?
I was actually in the corporate world, so people are very surprised. But are you in the corporate? I'm like, yes.
What were you doing in your corporate work then?
Yeah, I was. It ranged from being a clinic manager, so for a small little multidisciplinary clinic like physio, chiro, to like administrative assistant. So I tend to do the more background work
Right.
in the corporate. Yeah.
So, what got you into this side of your life then? How did you end up here doing this sort of work?
Oh, yeah, like many of you, also self exploration and self healing journey. So, just, when we don't deal with our trauma in our childhood, and it catches up to us, right? So, I started to have really severe anxiety attacks and depression from a lot of childhood trauma that manifested in like relationship problems, and then slow over time it just deteriorated me physically and emotionally, mentally. So I'm like, okay, the conventional methods are not working, so I gotta look for other areas. And I started with meditation, and then through meditation, I learned energy healing, and then slowly started to see things and hear things and understand how I interact with the world. So that's how it all started, self healing. And then it's like Alex in Wonderland. You just find the magical things as you go.
So, what was guiding you at that time? Did you have any sort of mentors, or what sort of material were you reading on the journey of where you've got to?
Yeah, so I'm a self-proclaimed spiritual nerd. I read a lot of books from During Virtue, Eckhart Tolle, Matt Kahn, James Van Praagh. So just learning about all the non-physical realm. And also I took a lot of courses. I think I've spent like 50,000 on just taking courses like yoga, even Thai massage and meditation, Kundalini yoga, to just learn a little bit from each culture. I learned some from Taoism, Ayurveda as well. And just over time, little bits and pieces led me to where I am now.
Yeah. So, basically, where you are now is the journey that you've taken. And this is through your lens, obviously, this journey is. And anything that you say here, I guess, is based on what you've found to work for yourself, but it some of it may work for others, and it's for people to take with them, I suppose, what feels right. But also I do like to try to have, I think there's got to be some sort of common sense there as well. Even though in this work it doesn't seem like there's always common sense, right? Because it's it's so different, isn't it? Sometimes, but maybe common sense is not the right word. Maybe there's another word I'm looking for. I just can't think of it right now. I think sometimes this whole, my truth, your truth. Well, maybe we obviously do create our reality, right? But
Mm.
I think we're always fine tuning that reality, aren't we? But there's still something within what you bring through, probably. Um, there's a lot of things in common with what other people that have gone on the journey as well have also come to realize. So it's all through lenses, I suppose. That's what I'm saying, and
Mhm.
we've all got a different take on it. So, what is channeling to you then? Would you say?
That's a good question. I think channeling is helping me find my natural state of being. A lot of people think it's like spiritual, but to me, it's just who am I naturally, even without the spiritual programming, too. So, yeah, channeling helps me in that moment when I'm in that high vibrational state. Really, time dissolves and everything dissolves, and that's that pure consciousness and state of being that's to me is channeling.
Right. Okay. And how do you discern as well?
Yeah, discernment talk a lot about it in my materials too. I think discernment is really relative depending on where we are at in our journey as well. So the key thing is to keep an open mind. And if we're not sure, we just observe. It's like, okay, if we meet a new guy and we're not sure, especially the galactic ones, because it's quite messy sometimes there, you want to observe your interaction with the guy to see, okay, is this guy truly unconditionally loving, guiding me, or is it trying to control or take over certain aspects of my life? So thanks for bringing that up. That's so important.
What is it that you channel then?
I believe I channel connections that I've had in my multidimensional life. So, for example, Kwan Yin is a goddess that I work with, but I know from my Akashic records that I have also worked with her in other lifetimes, and the Arcturians as well. In other lifetimes, I was an Arcturian. So to connect with them, it's like connecting to my roots galactically and helping me remember, oh, I'm not just me, Tiffany. There's other aspects, other lifetimes that I can draw strength from or wisdom. So it's like a library that you can pull out and, I used to be a good speaker in that lifetime. So let's download that into this lifetime. Yeah.
Right. How much do you question that reality in a sense that, could this be coming from a part of you that is very powerful, right? Whatever that part is, call it the higher self or the soul or the this energy that we seem to be when we cross back over. And do you think sometimes that we're channeling that we want to call it something else, like it's the Arcturians, it's this, it's that, because we don't want to take responsibility that actually we are that powerful, that we it's easier for us or happier for us to sort of call it something else? Or
yeah, I believe so. So part of channeling, we have to do our shadow work, and ego is a big part of shadow work. And I think that sometimes, when it comes to quantum connection, it could be just parts of it wanting to feel that this is a part of our ego connection to this being or that being. And we don't want to, like you say, embrace to say, yeah, that's my higher self, because we want to remain humble and we want to be respectful. So a lot of times sometimes we say, oh, it's Kwan Yin saying this, but in itself, like many people say, we're all one. So it's all one thing. It's one big washing machine. We're all in it together.
do you feel that if you went out there publicly and didn't go out there as an Arcturian channeler or whatever it is that you're bringing through, and you were just labeled as something else, do you think that you would be maybe bringing through, attracting people that need your help, but maybe would be put off maybe with the language or with the idea that we're channeling starseed beings in a sense? If that language wasn't there, do you think there's people that need your help that would come to you then, but they're just put off by the jargon sometimes? This counts to so many people out there doing the same thing. I've got this conversation with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you will reach a larger audience if you didn't use words like Arcturians. For example, I think like someone like Thich Nhat Hanh, like the famous Buddhist monk, he's channeling his higher self, but he doesn't label it as anything. So he reached a very large, broad audience. But I guess for me, I'm kind of introverted and I just like to stay under the radar. So for me, being very niche or very specialized in one lineage or other labels helps me. So it's
because that's your journey.
Choice.
That's your journey.
Exactly. Yeah. Although sometimes I feel like, let's say if I'm teaching a class or hosting a workshop, then I just let myself tune into my higher self. And people always like, oh, you teaching has a different energy as the normal Tiffany, right? So, yeah.
No, I think that's so true. You see some of these, like you mentioned, Thich Nhat Hanh, but when you, even other people that I'm sure there's so many out there that we would say, oh my God, yeah, he's channeling there. Yeah, he's channeling that character or that music. We're not using those words, but what will they say? It just came to me. It came through me. Many of the greats have said that, haven't they? Even Paul McCartney will say, I just downloaded it, man. Do you know what I mean? Or it just came through. It's all the same modality. Yeah, yeah. And I guess that you feel that when you do use the word starseed, or you do use other words, labels, that you are then helping people who need that or feel that connection with you because of those labels. But yeah, it's something after interviewing so many, and at this point I'm at right now, right in this journey, I'm like, labels. How many people are we not helping by doing that? And I'm sorry that you're coming on the interview to have that with me, but
no, this is good.
That's
this is the shadow of the
on a Thursday night.
channeling.
That's where we're up to. Do you know what I mean? With this docu-series, because I think to myself, I want to do a spiritual news network, but I'm like, hang on a minute, Kev. We may have to drop all the jargon here, because we're not gonna help the people that so deserve it if we start using jargon. And I'm like, where am I up to? And when I saw that you're coming on today, I was like, okay, because I know that obviously people can be quite attacky as well sometimes, or they could be quite judgmental, right? Is that one way of putting it? But I suppose what I'm trying to show in this conversation is that you would agree with what I'm saying. I would agree with why you do what you do, but there is another way as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think we change every day. So some days you're just your higher self, or you in a natural state, and other days you're like, you know what, I want to play with this energy, this Arcturian energy, or this Kwan Yin frequency. And I think that's the beauty of channeling, is there are rules, like you have to be grounded and do your shadow and purify, but there's also no rules. It's like music. You just let the download flow. And I think that as long as we bring in this conversation, to be conscious of, oh yeah, we're using labels, or there are things that we have to be aware of, I think in that sense we can help people from all walks of life. But yes, know what you're saying, because I went from religious to atheist to now channeling. So I understand at each stage you need something to click and turn on the light bulb. So
yeah. And I'm sure that other people listening to this will maybe it will make them think as well, as much as we're having that because I think when you do bring through what you do, say it's through the Arcturians, putting that to one side, they may be Arcturians or they may not be, because you don't really know. All you know is it's a loving energy, and to you, you're trusting it, and it's not harming you. It's there to help. What comes through is very powerful, especially when you're saying things to a client that only resonates with them, and it's changing them in ways that wouldn't have shifted them any other way, right? But yeah, it's there's lots of different things out there right now. I know in some of your stuff you talk about white hats and other things like that.
Yeah, that's a whole other arena too. So
I've heard that term before when it's used in the sort of new, not, I wouldn't say new age movement, but it's the sort of QAnon movement a little bit. Well, that's what's taken that term over. It just triggered me a little bit when I heard that term. Do you know that? I'm going to be honest with you.
I used that term. I don't even remember.
It's okay. Yeah, maybe you don't remember.
No.
Yeah, well, they talk about, don't they, in the alternative movement, that the white hats are the good guys and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, Yeah, well, I've heard people use that recently when it comes to to this whole conflict with Russia, where it's the white hats against Russia and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh God, are we really going there? Are we? Is this? I just disagree with it totally, but that's my perspective. I'm not being attacky. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's too relevant to my work. So maybe I've mentioned it in passing, but might be one out of like my 200 videos that you just happen to watch.
I'll let you off on this occasion. Don't worry. No, I did hear. It must have been a video that I just watched and I heard it and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because what is your take on? Are you into the conspiracy movement at all, or is it more of the love and light stuff, or?
I think I do dabble a little bit in all. I have some friends that are more into it, but to me right now, I don't really like follow it too much. Because I'll be honest, like a few years ago when I was in it and I was following it, I was getting too lost in all the
Oh,
intels. I'm
same
like,
here.
all these intels are just sucking my energy. It's not creating things. So I just stopped following and focus on my own work, and it's so much better. So that's where I'm at now.
That's what I found with it as well. I was very much into Alex Jones at one time, right? And I got it, now I just look at it from a production set. That's a great set he's got there. Well, I see how he's doing that TV wise. Do you know what I mean? But when I wasn't looking at it from that perspective, I was looking at it from like a fear porn kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was just addictive, right? It does suck your energy. Absolutely, it does. And I see many people in this sort of spiritual movement now, sort of still in that, in both fields. I heard the term conspirituality.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, that's such a true term. And there is a lot of that stuff in the spiritual fields, and it does. I think it's just depowering, to be honest with you. But that's my take on it. Pretty much as you've had your experience with it as well. You sort of, like you say, it sort of sucks it away from you, doesn't it? It sucks the energy away. Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, when is the next intel coming? And then I'm just like, yeah, it's a distraction.
Yeah, shadow work is one thing that you mentioned as well. Previous when I watched this interview was that you've done a lot of work on your shadow work, and I think that's very important as well. That how much did that change you when you did that work on your shadow work?
Oh, a lot. I think, that is what woke me up from what we like to call 3D matrix. I was like, oh my God, there is this observing consciousness. There are different aspects of myself. And there are so many blind spots that I wasn't able to realize. Like I was circling myself in like abusive relationships. I didn't know why. It's like, why am I a nice person? But why am I always in this cycle? And then through shadow, I realized, oh my God, these are all childhood trauma that I have not dealt with. And so it manifests over and over again. So doing shadow work really helped me see that. And from that point of my life to now, a big difference where I was. So.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm sure it's made you a stronger person that if you did get in another relationship where it was abusive in any way, you would you would have the experience to know that that's not what you want as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And having that strength to leave was the thing that I was.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's the hardest part, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're like, is it me that's the crazy one, or that's the crazy one? And then we're a little crazy in different ways, doing the same thing over and over, right? Like Einstein said. So shadow work is like, okay, here's the cycle, we're gonna break it, and being able to, instead of doing this circle and project and tangent outwards, is what was really helpful about shadow work. And in my materials, I'm very transparent about my trauma and my shadow too, because as a channeler, we have filters still. So I think it's important for the viewers to know, hey, I was bullied when I was young. So for me, protection when channeling is a big thing, right? Just to make sure that I feel safe. Where some channelers, they don't have that. And they're like, I'm always protected. I don't need protection. So I find that having that awareness also helps me as a, creator share my vulnerability, because we all have it. And admitting it and being aware of it is so helpful when you're channeling. So we don't get sucked into, like you said, identities, the labels. And some people might go to the spectrum where they think they are Jesus, like I am Jesus. That can become ungrounded, right? So I think shadow work keeps me at least grounded.
Well, that's when it becomes a little bit more culty. So, yeah, and I don't think people set out to become a cult, but I mean, it can happen. It can when Yes, well, that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show, that is, right? Yeah, that's another podcast. One thing you mentioned as well was the need to, well, not the need, but you mentioned that you are healed, or we are all healed. We don't need to, to be healed. We are healed. Because I do see a lot of people within this field as well, walking around saying, I'm so unhealed. I've got so many, I've got to heal all my issues and that lot. I'm like, okay, but you seem you're coming from a different space from it.
Yeah, like I think where that was coming from is, a lot of like quotes that you see on spirituality is like, you are, you need to heal that, fix this, fix that, be the best version of yourself. And it's so tiring sometimes. You're like, I'm always chasing after the best version of myself. So I think to have a balance, sometimes, like you said, we need to just, well, just be natural. Like, who am I in this moment as my natural self, like, or authentic self, right? Can I just be okay with, okay, I'm not super healed or completely healed? And in that moment, the magic is, well, I am healed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, being in this reality, you're always going to feel like that, though, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's meant to be the opposite, isn't it? I mean, how are we going to have the experience if we don't have all these opposites? Walking around with white robes and, playing harps and everything else. I didn't come for that. I'm not from the experiences I've had, or maybe I've just not looked for it. But I don't really fancy that type of lifestyle anyway. But this idea that we're all going to be, it's just going to be a peaceful world, and love is the only answer. Yes, of course, all it is, but where we're at collectively right now is where we're at. Do you know what I mean? And yes, I'm sure we all want to head towards more peace and more love, but I think this leads into some of the the talk that's out there about heading towards 5D. We're in 3D and we're heading towards 5D, and I'm like, or a new Earth. But tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is we're not heading towards a parallel reality. We're talking about the idea of bringing peace and more peace, and seeing each other as connected as one. That's the fifth dimension or density, is it? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me is, I believe in 5D, we're still going to have division. Like, you're still going to have different religions and beliefs, but it's that we respectfully, allow each other to believe what we believe. I think where the wounding hurts in this dimension, or where we are now, is like, I'm right, you're wrong, or if you believe this, then you're wrong. That's where the fiction or misunderstanding come from. But I think, quote, quote, new earth is where we're like, oh, you believe in that? That's so interesting. Like, tell me a little bit more about why you feel this way. And then I tell you about what I believe. Like, I have religious friend that is totally devoted to God and Jesus, and they don't believe in past life. But we are really good friends because we just talk about what each other believe, and we're okay with it. So I believe that's like 5D. And I still think 5D, there's going to be things that are not always love and light. So yeah, it's just I think it's the consciousness. Is you're able to be more open-minded, you're be able to agree to disagree. That's what, to me, the new earth is. It's just more harmonious, but still a lot of different expressions.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, at some points, where other people's work was, well, people would say based on other people's work or understanding, or even the talk of, these other dimensions, or moving to 5D was, oh my God, am I going to leave my loved ones? Would it just be me moving across, or will they go across and I'll be left here? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think that it's none of that. Well, I don't feel it is. It's what you're saying there. It's this shift, and I think we're seeing some of this shift right now, in the sense that even with the conflict in the Ukraine, people do care. Look how many people care about what's going on right now. For a long time in history, this is one event that's brought so many people together, when they see the death and destruction of this nation and how it's trying to pull through, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, or conspiracy stuff or non-conspiracy stuff about biolabs and all that stuff. What about the people?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, for me, it's like seeing how we unite and support the people, like people supporting people, was very beautiful to see. Like they were suffering, and I just recently become a mother, so
Congratulations.
Thank you. And seeing like these parents handing off their babies to like militaries, not knowing what their fate's going to be, just broke my heart. And I think, yeah, all of us are now involved to help people in Ukraine. And there's like problems everywhere, unfortunately. But we can really see we're putting our differences aside and supporting the people.
You're right. There are problems everywhere, but I think, of course, even poverty issues, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes to the level of destruction that we're witnessing, and the atrocities being carried out, I think it's, as you say, like when you, as a being a mum now, when you see this, the families, and just this, how crazy mankind can be, right? The insanity of us. And this is all happening for a reason. Has your channeling sort of gone into this area at all recently, a bit more, as into what's going on right now?
Not really. The revelation I got this year about my channeling is I was not destined to be the channeler that's like, oh, here's the next intel, here's the next intel from the Arcturians, or they never really did that with me. And I know why now. It's because, like we said, like intels get people addicted and things like that. What is more impactful is just still helping people do the inner work. So a lot of my work now is just finding your divinity within yourself, like who are yourself is natural. And a lot of people, I'm sure you've talked about this in your show with others, like, what is my soul purpose? What is my mission? So we always have this big question. And I think my work is deviating, directed towards that. It's like, well, it's the small acts that you do every day, or it is your exploration, like expanding yourself. Like, for example, where I am now, 5 years ago in the corporate field, you telling me Arcturians, I'll be like, cool, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So, for some of us who's wondering about our purpose and mission, maybe we just haven't expanded our consciousness enough to include more things that we might not know about in our like 9-to-5 life, So I'm focused more on like expansion and exploration of the self and around us.
Right, the inner work. Well, no, that's important. I mean, especially if people are worried and scared right now, or uncertain, the people have just come out of COVID. I get it. The inner work is really important for a lot of people, because that's where the change takes place. And I suppose there's a ripple effect of that, to the people just even around them and closest to them, in a sense, which is just as important.
And you're right, like with COVID, a lot of us has lost loved ones, or have lost jobs, or how so these loss of identities can, bring the pendulum swinging in our lives. So a lot of us is like, what am I doing here?
I don't know. What are we doing here, right?
Yeah, what are we doing? I think all of us have those days though. Some people say, oh, you're a channeler, you shouldn't feel emotions, you
Oh,
should
really?
know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I don't.
Well, I mean, would you say that we've all got this ability, haven't we, in some respects? But maybe yours is a bit stronger than others.
Yeah, I think it comes with practice too. So yeah, for me, I was like practicing every day, very disciplined. Um, so I think I don't want to say more advanced, but just more conscious of my surroundings energetically, right? When compared to someone that's just starting out, like we all started out from somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. How has motherhood changed you with your work? I mean, obviously, time wise it has, but I mean, it must be doing what you do and then being a mum as well. That's a pretty unique experience.
Yeah, like for me, I actually had a really transformation journey. I had a really difficult long birth. It was like 36
Oh
hours.
wow! Oh my gosh!
I know. And there's my shadow because I was like, oh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna have a great home birth. And then did not happen. So it shattered my perception again. Every time you think, oh, I got this, you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, I started to realize there's still a lot about motherhood and from maiden to mother and birth itself that spirituality can explore more, because I experience what it's like in the hospital and I'm like, there's no spirituality. They're just like, we're gonna get this baby out of you as soon as possible, and then there's no congrats, no nothing, and just like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, next one. Yeah, no, it's not. It's like that, isn't it? My brother told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Um, I guess maybe does it deep has it changed your connection with what you bring through at all, or has it?
Yeah. So actually, for a while, the birth itself, it's like it really opens you up energetically. It's like the most earth-shattering experience, but then afterwards, motherhood is very grounding, or any parents may be able to resonate with this. Like it's very grounding, and you like for a while I didn't channel at all. It was just breastfeeding and survival. So yeah, I was actually a little afraid, like, oh my God, did I lose my connection? Or, did my gifts close off? But now, like, it's been 5 months, then it's slowly returning. But you're right, there's a change. Like looking at myself before, like in my old YouTube content, I feel like it's still me, but it's like different.
It's a difference, isn't there? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a more grounded vibration.
I
And
think that's
yeah,
can only be a good thing, though, don't you?
I feel so. Yeah, it's every day you're learning something new, and things that previously might have bothered you a lot, like, oh, it's my eyebrow plugged, or like things like that don't really bother me when I go on YouTube
God, no,
anymore.
yeah.
It's like I'm just, me. So I'm just
Well,
gonna
yeah,
show up.
I guess the big, I got sleep today would be a big thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, just the basics. Yeah, Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Because I meet some people on this journey, a lot of channelers who, have chosen not to have children on this
Mm.
journey. So it's cool to meet someone that's doing the opposite.
Yeah, it's really cool too. And thanks for bringing it up. I think it'll be part of my journey to share like how parenthood changes channeling too.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you've got to
Mhm.
make time for it as well. It's oh god, it's a lot of work, but it's something that you would never have said no to. Now having it, absolutely, and so Okay, then. So now, obviously you've entered into motherhood. What are you actually bringing through now as well? Is it the same energy? Would you say?
I would say it's interesting. I think it's more myself now. So instead of, always not depending, but like always feeling like I have to connect to the Octurians to get a message out. It's more like, what am I receiving today? Just with no labels, just me. And so I can be more, I don't know, like is it the word authentic or just more natural when I'm
I think
talking
that's a
instead of
good
saying
word for it.
the
Yeah.
Arcturians are telling me this. I can be like, today I'm experiencing this type of energy. Like, does anyone else feel this too? Or so it's more simple.
Well, I had no idea, right? So it's funny that
Mm,
we're having this conversation. What we spoke about previous about labels and all that kind of stuff. So interesting, very interesting.
mhm,
So, but if someone did want, well, let's talk about this as well. So when people do have a reading with yourself and they did want a
mm,
particular type of reading, they can still do that should they choose
yeah.
to.
hmm
How does it work then with your sessions when the people go to your website? Then how does that work?
So it depends on the person. Some people come to me like for shadow work, like healing the inner child or doing ego alchemy. Others are more into, oh, what guides do I have for past life healing, or they want to do some light body activation. So it depends on where the soul is, where they need at the moment. And it always just works perfectly. Like the person, if they're ready, and the facilitator, which is me acting as a facilitator, it just comes out exactly what they need at that time. But also, sometimes in channeling, you think you're going to go this direction, it turns out to be a different direction. So.
Always the case, and well, not always, but it can happen. That's right. And you've got online courses as well.
Yes. So yeah, I teach light language. I teach light codes. I also have a school for priestesses to learn all the healing modalities that I do. So I'm always creating every week, every year, something
Yes,
new.
yes. Well, that's what it's all about. As you know more, you can share more. But with the schooling one, the this did you say it was a
Mm,
6 month one? Is that a process? So if people want to learn the business themselves, then I'm guessing if they want to become um, a channeler, or if they wanted to open up their intuitive side as well, right, the psychic side,
mhm.
then this larger course then sort of takes them through that process, but with a lot more access to you in those.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's more one-on-one then.
exactly. So that's more like it's like a one-time initiation. They join and lifetime access, lifetime support, and they learn how to learn like different ways to channel. Yeah, there are many ways to channel, and not every person channel the same way. So it's also good to have some mentor too when you're channeling.
Well, I
Uh,
guess it's something
yeah.
that you didn't quite have, right? And
Mhm.
then you're able to offer that as well. And it's great to have someone from your culture as well on, just to show that this is possible as well, because it's always lovely to, we're all
Mm.
got different bodies, right? And we're
Mm-mm-mm.
all from different parts of the world, but yet we're all one.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I really love about the internet. The good thing about the internet is bring people from all cultures or background into the same place.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And then and again, you do your readings throughout the world as well. So do you feel that maybe in the not too distant future that you may be doing more work where it's more sort of group work as well? Would you be open to that?
yeah, absolutely. I think I just play around with the energy. Sometimes I'm more one-on-one sessions, and then other times I'm like, okay, time to do a course, like a group thing. And like the like language one was more recent, just started last year. And yeah, this year they are having uh I'm creating this course on light codes. So yeah, just listen to the cosmic weather.
Yeah, yeah. And what does
Go
that
with the weather.
yeah, what does that actually, do for people then? So if they feel drawn to do the light language, what does that, do you think, do to people that are drawn to that sort of healing?
Yeah. I think just from their feedback, I help them learn how to channel better, understand what they're doing, and refine their techniques. And also, there are things that they might not have known that they are finding out, like, oh, I need to do protection, or oh, I need to do cleansing after, like things like that, that they're learning that can be very helpful. Because a lot of the things I teach is just through trial and error in my own journey that my teachers didn't tell me. And then, so I always want to make sure that we got to teach people even our mistakes, because sometimes in the spirituality field, teachers are always needing to be like perfect, like, oh, I need to be this perfect master, and I only share the good stuff. And they're like, no, you have to share your mistakes, so you're I don't want to say student, but or
I think it's
understand.
important. No, I
They
think
need to know.
absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying there. It's so important. Yeah. You also, I don't know if you still do this, but you also have done channeled inner earth beings.
Oh yeah, that was a fun portion of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that something
Yeah.
you still do, or is that something that you had done and you don't do as much, or is this something you?
I don't think as much. I haven't really reached out to them a lot. Like I said, they come and go, right? Like
Right. Yes.
you learn a little bit from this group, and you're like, oh, cool, and then you go on to the next group.
No, I get you. Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I've only sort of touched upon, when I watched something about yourself was, wherever stage of that journey that you was on then. Do you know what I mean? And of course, it's great to see that you're progressing as well. Well, how do you channel then? What is it you do? What is the process of you connecting then?
So for me, I always make sure I'm in a good state of mind. Like if I was like postpartum crying, then those days I never channeled, right? So what you want to, for me, I want to make sure that I'm in a good mental state, and I make sure that my environment is clean, it's light. I do invocation. So for me, I would say things like, dear source, or dear my higher self, please connect with me. I am light. I am, authentic, or I'm natural, whatever the day's energy is that I need. I also ask for protection and invoke it for myself just through like gratitude. So from the heart, I create a field of gratitude that surrounds me as protection. I sometimes ask source to protect me with light as well. And then I set my intention, like, oh, today I want to do this, or shadow work, or connect with this being or that being. And then thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I go into a deep meditation. I use breath work. I sometimes use body movement to help me attune to that higher state of being. And I know I'm in it because I get tingling sensations, and my voice changes to like a lower pitch. Like now I'm really giggly and the inner child is very alive. But when I'm in channeling, my voice become more melody and slower. And so once I'm in that state, then I just let myself explore. Things comes to me. I mostly see and feel things. And then I come out of the meditation. I close it up with a gratitude prayer again. And then I cleanse my space to disconnect from the energy. So I feel like more myself again.
It sounds like it's a bit of a process, and I don't know if you're comfortable to do that today. Maybe it's a bit, maybe we need a bit more time. Because obviously I know your time's precious right now, so I'm aware of that. Don't worry. I'm guessing for you to switch it on, what's it take? About 5 minutes to warm up, and
Yeah.
yeah,
5-10 minutes.
5-10 minutes.
Then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with a client, when a client comes to see you, then is that
Mm.
have you sort of already warmed up before then? Have you, when they're connecting with you?
Yeah. So before I see them, I would sit down and I would actually do like a little gratitude prayer for them. And and then I'll go into session. So already prepared for the channeling. So then all I'm doing is guiding them. I say, okay, now you invite source, right? Or whoever, how you label this energy. So I become more facilitator for them.
Well, yes, of course. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get back in contact about that, because that might be nice just to have that on camera. What is the main message that's coming through right now, would you say? Even though there's so many different clients that you're seeing, is there a common sort of message?
Yeah, they always get common message like every week. I see the common pattern. The interesting thing that I've been experiencing lately is being able to embrace their power, which is so interesting because you talked about it in the start of the conversation. It's coming into a full circle. So a lot of people say, I wanted to take this course, I wanted to do this or do that, but I don't know if I can. So a lot of people have this question in their mind, and the answer that I feel is always what leads you to your personal joy, like what brings you expansion. Some people is like, well, healing others brings me expansion and so much joy, but I also need to do my 3D job. And then a lot of times the guidance would be, well, bring more time to do what brings you joy, and eventually that joy is going to amplify and it's going to, manifest more into your life. So yeah, follow where joy leads you.
Yeah, and we've all got a purpose, haven't we? And maybe the joy is the purpose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Or it's like I think a lot of our purpose is helping others. And when you help others, you feel, right, that joy, that gratitude and that expansion. So yeah. So if anyone listening is stuck, go talk to someone, go call up someone, text somebody.
It's the little things, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah.
And obviously I've said this to so many people, and I'll say it to you as well, and especially to you, being a mum is of purpose, right? That's a massive purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's a humongous purpose. And, we discount that sometimes, don't we? Things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
Exactly.
they're like, oh, they're just day-to-day things. Well, no, they're not quite. It's a full-time job, and, and it's of being of service to another, isn't it?
Yeah, and they teach you something every
Of
day.
course they do. Yeah. Don't take this too seriously. Yeah. Don't take yourself too serious. No, they do. That's right. For sure. Is there any message you might like to leave us with?
If I were to say something, it's just embrace all parts of yourself, even the parts that are painful or the parts that are struggling. Of course, we want to be like, oh yeah, I love to embrace my love and light side. But if there are parts of you that are painful, don't push it away, don't resist it, because you're going to create that tension like a rubber band. Bring it closer, observe the pain, be with the pain, be with the struggle, just like holding a crying baby. Then, with the love and attention, they calm down and everything's harmonious again. So that's my message.
Thank you. And your website is?
My website is highpriestessascension.com.
Okay, well, that's been coming up on the screen throughout this. Tiffany, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure to have you on. And
Thank you, Kevin.
it's gone so quick. I don't understand how it's gone so quick. And just thank you for what you're doing and what you're sharing with the world.
And you too, Kevin. Thanks for, providing this platform for everyone.